Good morning, everyone. Today's podcast is about memory strategies, and we all try to know what is important to remember, especially for exams, some things for life. What is important to remember? So, again, today we're talking about memory strategies. And this is particularly for the students that are trying to study and trying to remember stuff. So we're going to go through some coursework and talk about what do we try to remember for these coursework so we may be successful in our exams. And sometimes it helps us to remember things that we need important, okay? So let's look at this in terms of we're trying to remember information and know what are we supposed to remember for studying for a test, what is critical, focusing on what is immediately relevant. Now, for college, in my college classes, I've used what they call the acronyms or the acrostic sentences. So today's acrostic sentence is going to be find dates, name for a quiet walk together. Again, it's find dates, name for a quiet walk together. And each one of those words represents something that we need to remember when we're studying for exams and for tests. So let's look at the word find. So find is the first word, but my major focus is going to be on the letter F. F stands for formulas. So let's talk about formulas. What do we need to learn for formulas? In formulas, we are trying to learn formulas for math classes. We're trying to learn formulas for math classes. So when we go to a math class, what do they normally do? They write the formula on the board. Then they go over a bunch of examples, maybe 3 times. They'll ask you to help solve the problem as you go along to check for your understanding. Then what happens when you go home? They give you 30 of the same exact problems for you to do. And some of you say, oh, that's busy work. I know, some of you call that busy work. But the whole point is to practice so that you can become perfect in that formula. So when we talk about classes like accounting, sometimes chemistry, algebra, what is important is the formula. You need to know how to use the formula, apply the formula, and solve it in many different ways. So that's the first thing. In the word find, F is for formula. So let's look at the next word, dates. D-A-T-E-S, dates. So, if I talk to you about dates, and I tell you some incidents, you may say, yeah, I know what's going on. If I said to you 9/11, you say, of course. 9/11 is the incident that happened. And where the Twin Towers came down, everybody remembers that. That's the date. If I say to you, there are some other dates like February 14, you say, yeah, I remember that date. That's Valentine's Day. That's how you associate it. If I say to you December 25th, you say, yes, I know that date. That's Christmas Day. And that's how we associate these dates. And everybody remembers their birthday. So dates are important. Now, how do we apply that in college? If you go to most of your college classes, dates are important. Dates are important for you to know. In what year did this happen? Especially for those history classes. In what year did that happen? On what time did that happen? So when you're studying, make sure you look for dates. That's another cute thing that they use on tests all the time. Dates. So dates are important. Now let's look at name. If I said to you the name Rosa Parks, how many people remember what Rosa Parks, or what does that stand for? Many of you may say, Miss, we all know that. It's the lady that sat on the bus. Everybody remembers that lady in America who sat on the bus. If I say to you in Jamaica, Nanny, of course we know Nanny. She's a national hero. If I say to you Queen Elizabeth, of course we knew Queen Elizabeth. She's a lady in England. So names are important. So when you're doing a test, they're going to ask you about names. So the first thing I talked about was formulas are important. The next thing, dates are important. The other thing, names are important. So if we go back to the story of Rosa Parks and we look at her name, we can say she was a lady who sat on the bus. And after she sat on the bus and she refused to give up her seat, then it caused an evolution. And then after it caused a problem, then other people joined her and it became something that was very big in America. So when you're studying, remember to write down the important names. So formulas, dates, then names. Now, the next thing that I'm going to talk about is words. So I'm moving on for a quiet and I'm going on to walk. I'm going down to words. The W in walk stand for words. And I'll go back to quiet and A in a bit. So words are important. And when we're talking about words are important, in this case we're referring to vocabulary words. So if they're teaching you a new word like reconstruction, pre-construction, you need to understand what those words mean. So you need to learn vocabulary words that they have for you in the text. So the next thing to learn are vocabulary words. New vocabulary words. Now, if I ask you for some of the things that are critical in learning and what is important, and I was talking to my friend, Miss Barbara, because she loves to do marketing, and she says, you have to know UVP. I said, really? She says, yes, you got to know UVP. And I said, what's UVP? She says, people need to know who you are. So if you notice, UVP by itself is a new word to me, but she's trying to tell me that it's something about unique value, right? So if you notice, for me, that's a new vocabulary term. For others, it may be something that you already know. But when we're talking about marketing, she says you have to know these terminologies in order to understand yourself. And then we went on to talk about a little bit about, in terms of marketing, what do they look for? What do they look for in terms of marketing for yourself? And then she said to me, the first thing I look for, I talk about to people, is know, like, and trust. I said, know, like, and trust? What do you know? And how many people know about you? Then like. Like is talking about, will people like your product? Will people understand your product? Trust. Do you have a lot of positive feedback or a lot of negative feedback? And I said, So she said to me, you have to have a unique value. So vocabulary words are important. And that was important to me in our conversation. Unique value in terms of learning. So maybe that would be important for a marketing class, because that's her specialty. That's what she's been doing for 20 some years for a living. So it's a unique value position. But I learned that as a new vocabulary term, yes, just a few days. So again, vocabulary words are important. If you don't understand the concepts, then you cannot pass the test. All right? Now, the other thing that is important when you're studying is the topic. You got to know what the subject matter is about. If you don't know what the content is, or you don't understand the content, or you can't relate to the content, then you got a problem. So the last letter that I have here is T, and the word together for topic. Now I'm going to go back. So you must know the topics that they're talking about every time they're doing a lecture. Gotta know the topics, lest you're going to be lost. So the last part I want to talk about is a Q&A. When you're studying, you should write questions and also have the answers. And some of you says, Professor, that's not necessary. Oh, yes, it is. At least for me it is. And for many others it is. Not because there's a free test bank out there means that you understand the concept. When you write your own questions, and I won't say I do it for everything, because this online class is a demon in itself. And let me say the word demon. What do I mean? It's a different way of learning. So in online classes, they fill you up with a whole bunch of words and documents, and then you're like, who is reading all of this? That's the first question I ask myself. How do you expect me to comprehend all of these 40, 50, 60 pages of words, of information? How are you expecting me to process all of this in the time frame given? So, many times the way I do it, I go to the key areas and I write a few questions out, maybe in a Quizlet or maybe into some other place that I can study the information and write them out on an index card if I have the time. But I write my own questions because that's the only way it's going to stick into my head. Because all that other words surrounding it doesn't bring me any knowledge base. It's too much words, not understanding it. So I have to go in and pick out key things and say, let me study it. And then hope that these things come on the quiz. Hope that's what the answers that they're looking for. And it's not an easy thing in any online environment. So am I a good test taker? No. Am I a good test taker? Never was and never will be. My sons, yeah, they're good test takers. They can look at the stuff, tick the answers when they're in a good mood, and get it right. I got to go over and over and over and over again. Right? But for my sons, both of them, they could get an A on a multiple choice test and I get an F on the exact same test. And that is because their memory works different from mine. So when I have to put in twice the work, they don't have to put in twice the work. And is it because they were born in an online environment? No. Their skill set is just totally different. So, I'm telling you, I was never a student going to college. But I see in my sons that they have a total different brain. They can remember stuff that I can't remember, but I have to do mine over and over again. But that does not mean that I won't get a grade. I may get a C, and they may get an A on multiple choice, but then in other tests, I'll do better. So, let's continue. And it's not because I don't understand the material. I can teach the material back to them, but it's just I don't get these test things. So test is not my strong point. And I've always said that to everybody. I am not a good test taker. But I could take the textbook and open it and teach it to you just like anything that I've learned. Like I knew it for 20 years. But testing is not my strong point. But that didn't stop me from getting through college. I may have had to work harder than most of my friends, but I am still getting through. And that may be true for some of you. Don't think because you're not passing in one thing, you won't pass another way. Every teacher is not made up the same way. And someone says, all you gotta do is look up the multiple choice online. Yeah. I get that too. All you gotta do is that. But for me, when I want to really learn that material, I'm going to get some way to write it down, type it in Quizlet, type it in some Kahoot, type it somewhere. I will type it somewhere or I write it out by hand so that I can remember it. And sometimes putting everything on the computer is not good because I'm positive that they're tracking people on their computers, on their phones. But that's for another time. Okay? That's for another time. Our focus is what do we need to learn? Formulas, dates, names. Be able to write questions. And make sure when you write the questions, you also know the answers. Know words. Words, vocabulary words. Make sure you always know what the topic or area the professor is on, so that you can look up old exams online. Look up old materials online so you can use them to help you to get information. And in my days, in the 1990s, when I was going to college, we had tons of old exams. We got it from the teachers. We got it from anywhere. So I don't consider those things cheating. The teachers have been giving us their old exams from when they give us the old test banks. They gave us old materials to study from. We use it as a study base, and we go in the exam and we sit it ourselves. With this online learning, everybody's trying to look at Turnitin, look at this, look at that. But no one has told me yet how I'm going to source my life experience. I have 40 years in a country, and you're going to tell me to source my own experience. That's kind of hard. Again, that's a topic for another time. So I think some things in college need to be revamped. But again, that is for another time. So what you're going to study? Find for formula. Dates for studying dates in terms of history dates. Names, important names. Q, make sure you write your own questions. A, make sure you have your answers. W means new words, vocabulary words. T, make sure you have topics. Make sure you know the topics that are going on in those tests. Again, this is Professor Teen coming to you on things that you can use to help you memory or help you to remember for your test. Now for the assignment, I will do a YouTube to explain the memory strategies, that second part of memory strategies. So look out for that YouTube and have a pleasant day. Thank you.